we have 4 mayors and a sheriff to go. Woo! Let's go. I believe Mayor Avalos is next. That's Hello, thank you for waiting.
Hi there.
So our club endorsement is on the 15th. This is the members of the Political Action Committee, and we're videotaping for some members who aren't here, and they'll get broadcast wherever. I think it's on Fox or something. 15-minute slot, 3 minutes to say hello, introduction about the arts, the campaign, or whatever, and then Q&A.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. My name is John Avalos. I'm running for mayor of San Francisco. I'm currently serving on the Board of Supervisors, representing District 11, which includes the Excelsior, Crocker Amazon, Lakeview neighborhoods. We are the south central part of San Francisco. I came to San Francisco in '89 because of the arts community here in the city. I came with very little in my pocket and knowing very few people, but I was drawn here by just the incredible history for arts that is in San Francisco. Think of the beach, I think of the 60s and the Summer of Love and arts and rock and roll, all the things that really drove me and attracted me to be here. Maybe I'm kind of outdated that way, but I still think that San Francisco has a rich residue of that history here that we've built our current arts programming on in this city. This is an amazing city where you can come and create and reinvent yourself, and I found that this city has been wonderful for me in that respect. While I did not pursue the arts as well as I had expected to, I did pursue my career in social work and work with many communities across San Francisco to make sure that we could have communities have a greater voice at City Hall. I know that the arts community is indeed looking for that kind of voice to have at City Hall as well. And I really admire the work of the arts community, especially coming together to craft the Arts Task Force that I think needs much more of a vetting than it ever had over these past 5 years since it's been written. I look at the recommendations as key to making sure that we can actually include in our greater economy the arts community and ensure that we can actually promote the arts as a greater economic engine in San Francisco. And we have a lot of tools and a lot of ways that we can make that happen. Our construction for municipal buildings requires that 2% of our construction costs can go to arts. We haven't been using that money effectively to ensure that we have a strong neighborhood arts program. And I've been working with the Public Utilities Commission to make sure that we can actually use the great work that they're building for their new building they're building on Golden Gate and Polk to ensure that we can have more funding go out to our community groups. We don't distribute our arts funding equitably in San Francisco. I've been working with the task force members over the past few years to ensure that we have greater amounts of funding allocated to neighborhood arts, to our cultural centers, and to neighborhood artists to ensure that we can have ways to revitalize our commercial corridors in San Francisco to have a greater arts programming here in the city. I want to also use the mayor's office to create a new department for arts called our an arts, culture, and creative economy department, bringing together the Film Commission, Grants for the Arts Commission, as well as the Office of Economic and Workforce Development and our Convention and Visitors Bureau. Our arts are key to our economy, and having a department that's well designed to ensure that we can have a greater focus on not just supporting the major institutions like the opera, but smaller institutions and local artists is going to help make sure that our economy can thrive with the great creativity we have here in San Francisco. I want to make sure that we have a government that's transparent, that brings out people who are concerned first and foremost with public service, so we can actually have an administration that brings out the best of San Francisco, our government talent and our residents' talents as well. And I would love to have your support and endorsement to help make that happen. Thank you.
There's got to be questions.
That was good.
Definitely.
We have many programs and projects that come up that, for instance, America's Cup, Mid-Market, there currently is no planned program within America's Cup to engage the arts community. Do you have thoughts about that? Will you commit to supporting some sort of program that engages the art to spread some economic development to other areas in town?
Yeah, I think it's vital, especially we're going to see, we've talked about There's been analysis that $1.4 billion is going to be coming, money coming into the city for the America's Cup. That means a lot of people are coming here, and the America's Cup, only the races are going to happen during the day. So what are people going to do at night? We should have a whole series of arts programming that happens in various neighborhoods across San Francisco. I'm actually calling for a hearing, I've actually called for it already, on workforce development for the America's Cup. I think a big component of that is going to be arts and how we can promote local artists and arts funding as well. So I'll add that to another component to make sure we can have eyes on what the plans are for the America's Cup to assure that we're going to be as robust as we can for arts programming. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to make sure we're providing resources and support for local artists to showcase their talent, their work here in the city.
Thank you.
Hi, can you give us some background on what happened with the War Memorial Board's proposed, that bond election that was, where certificates of participation?
We, the Board of Supervisors and the mayor had approved funding for seismic work on the War Memorial Building. I'm thinking it was $140 million. So that's going to be restored, and I actually took a tour there recently with veterans, and there are key parts that they want to make sure that the building's going to have function for veterans in the city, and veterans feel like they've been denied, but there's plenty of space there for arts and arts programming events that I want to see continue and grow there with a new restored building.
And was that just the Veterans Building, or was that the Opera House as well?
That was the Veterans Building.
How about the hotel tax and securing funding for the arts out of the hotel tax?
Well, I want to move back. There's been a big shift in the hotel tax, how much it's been used. Traditionally, I think it was like 8% that was used for arts, and now it's gone to 6%. I'd like to bring that back and make sure we have the highest level of arts programming we can have. And also make sure that funding is going to go towards the neighborhood arts groups as well. That's been a part that has been lacking. I think a lot of those big funds gravitate towards the big nonprofit organizations like the opera. And I also want to look at how we can extend the online travel companies who right now are currently not paying their taxes for booking rooms in hotels in San Francisco. We can use that money to go towards neighborhood arts as well. That's a big, it's about $15 million a year once we settle that lawsuit, and I want to make sure that allocation goes forward as planned as well. And I actually had submitted a legislative request to see that funding could go towards parks and to neighborhood arts. So I think that's a little bit at odds perhaps with the current hotel tax allocation. So I want to work with arts groups and community groups to make sure that we have a new way of allocating that money that's going to be everyone can have buy-in on. And whatever we do would have to go to the ballot to get approved. If we want to dedicate any kind of particular tax, would have to go to the ballot and get
What's the
approved by voters.
status of the lawsuit?
The lawsuit hopefully will be settled next year. It's about $50 million a year, about $60 million that's been banked.
6-0.
6-0, yeah. So that would be one windfall. And I'm not sure how the mayor's office currently is looking to allocate those funds, but I would want to allocate them to support probably capital that could serve arts organizations, because it's really like one-time funding. That $60 million is not going to be around over and over again. What the city will get every year will be about $15 million. So the $60 million you want to put towards more one-time purposes. Those one-time purposes should be for capital projects, improving buildings and structures that serve the arts community and other communities that are appropriate for receiving funding from the hotel tax.
That may relate to my question, which is I'm the director of this organization, Counterpulse, and one of my concerns about mid-market is that we're not in it, but
Yeah.
we're next to it. So our rent, if this becomes a more desirable area, our rents are going to be completely affordable for us, and we rent here. So I'm wondering
Completely
about
unaffordable.
right,
Yeah.
unaffordable. So I'm wondering about preserving affordability for arts organizations in addition to for individual artists.
Well, I did not support the tax break for Twitter because I was really concerned about gentrification. I was concerned about the rise of rents around the area. So I want to be able to work on creating downward pressure on rents. It's key to residents who live here and to nonprofit organizations that serve here. I also don't think that the Twitter tax rate was fair for other communities that are struggling in San Francisco. And I think the city's already made some investments here that actually work in a way to support current renters and tenants in the area. We put investments in just basic infrastructure, bike lanes, supporting arts organizations moving in, but local arts organizations like the Luggage Store. So those are things I want to make sure we're able to do. And I'm concerned about a lot of property owners who just leave vacant space open because they're waiting for big tenants to come in who are going to pay the highest rent. And I want to make sure, I want to raise fees on people just keeping their property vacant. It doesn't make any sense. It's not helping the local economy, and it's basically banking for their future, but not for our community's future. It's something that it's a huge problem in my district where you have a lot of properties that are just blighted and not being taken care of. And I think that would help to assure that there's greater incentive or disincentive for keeping those properties open and opening up for local tenants and neighborhood serving organizations.
Jeff?
Recently, the major arts institutions have formed something called the San Francisco Arts Alliance. I don't know if you've heard of this group, but they have hired lobbyists to lobby the city to maintain the status quo, and they're paying that lobbyist $90,000 a year. This was on the San Francisco Ethics Committee's, who I know doesn't have the greatest reputation, but it was on their website. So I was wondering if you had been lobbied by this organization.
No, I'm one of the supervisors that gets lobbied the least. I had like probably 4 lobby visits last year, and the year, some of my colleagues have had numerous, like 20, 25 visits at a time.
From this lobbyist?
From
this lobbyist?
no, from various lobbyists. There's a lot of lobbyists in City Hall, so I haven't been part of that. And what I really like about this process, talking to candidates who are running for mayor, because you're putting before us a really great agenda that we can enact. And it's just we're studying on the issues and learning about the issues, and this is a great way of doing advocacy for the arts community, which is really exciting to me. And actually, it's helped me even becoming a supervisor to have relationships with people like Deborah Walker and Tony, where I've actually learned about the task force's recommendations and tried to apply them in my district as supervisor, trying to make sure we have neighborhood serving artists we have murals that are funded and neighborhood arts that are moving forward. We've had 4 art walk events in my district based on just my reorientation around artists. I've actually sponsored Poems at the Dome in City Hall 3 years in a row, bringing hundreds of poets to San Francisco City Hall. It's really great stuff we do, and I love the orientation that comes from local artists, pushing the agenda to support the arts community.
Scott and Brenda?
Without lobbyists, man.
If you hear about this lobbyist, would you let us know?
Sure.
I lobby for burritos.
Could you
but-
talk a little bit more about your ideas for mid-market and how it would get funded in case redevelopment monies don't come through?
Well, mid-market's not a redevelopment area right now.
It isn't?
It's- No. It
No,
was
there's-
discussed for a number of years to build, make it into a redevelopment area.
Yeah.
And because the developers, people were planning it and working on it for a number of years, they didn't have a very high level of affordable housing that was part of it, so that it just died on the vine. There could be other efforts to bring it back. But what's come in is there's been a lot of work on doing infrastructure work on our roads. There's been business attraction services that have come in for arts community. There's been the mid-market tax break, the central market tax break, which I did not support. We've had entitlements on 2 major development sites, one at Fox Plaza, one at SF, just a couple blocks away, I think on 9th, and Market as well. Trinity Plaza is being developed. That's brought, bringing new tenants, new vitalization to the neighborhood. So I believe there's all kinds of things that are happening to mid-market area. There are also mid-market community benefits district. There's one by SF Mart that SF Mart is part of, and there's one that 9th and Market Street are part of it as well. There's overlapping jurisdictions right there on Market Street that are bringing resources for neighborhood greening, for social services, and for security services that I think are helping with the mid-market area. So while the city's making all these investments, I don't think it makes sense to add another level of investment that attracts businesses that are going to be coming here that could displace current businesses and current nonprofit serving organizations and residents in the city.
If the answers are quick, we have time for two more. Scott, David.
Having helped start a number of small arts organizations, I can tell you the permit process is extraordinarily challenging with meeting all the requirements. Certainly in ideas of activating blighted spaces or in temporary community projects, might you be in support or have ideas that might make some allowances within, again, temporary occupation of spaces or activation of spaces, or for art-specific organizations, trying to make that process easier, and even expressing into we've lost the live-work legislation, but maybe in ways to start re-examining that again so that we could even build our own affordable housing and not have to rely on the city. And if there's maybe some measures that are put forward in regards to that, or if you have any ideas with that might
There's a
help
lot
us.
of questions there, but let me see.
Basically,
Always looking at how we can manage the permit process to start up new businesses and organizations and buildings. It's always very complicated. I think that would be one thing by streamlining and combining departments together that have an arts function that can help make recommendations about how we can identify what the permits that are too onerous are, that can help make things happen more quickly. I actually like the ideas of doing cooperative housing situations. The city has approved one organization of the past few years that just had their the land use decisions to finalize their building. Tenants were being evicted at Columbus Street a few years ago, and the city put in about $1 million for them to help create their own limited equity coalition cooperative. So they put their money together to buy their property together. They own it jointly. Where it's not a property that you build a lot of equity. The property value doesn't increase dramatically and line your pocket, but it helps you to invest locally. It's a way for people who don't make a lot of income to be able to buy property together, and I think that would suit artists very well to be able to, who don't make a lot of money, but who know a lot of other artists who are like-minded and creative about how to do financing, would be a great way for sponsoring more affordable housing. I also am looking at building more affordable housing. I want to do a sustainable communities housing bond that could build apartment housing and also support existing housing to support it for retrofitting for seismic safety, or for energy generation, or for energy efficiency, and to help current property owners who don't make a lot of money, who are middle class or working class, to modify their loans so they don't get foreclosed on. So these are the ideas I have around housing as well that I think could be applicable for local artists.
Very interesting proposal to create the Department of Arts, Culture, and Creative Industries. But are you at all concerned that in putting CVB into that mix, you're going to tip the balance towards downtown, mainstream, and high-profile arts organizations?
I go back and forth about whether to include that or not, and I could see a point of keeping Convention Visitors Bureau out because I think they're more oriented towards the biggest institutions. But if we're actually combining all of them, I think there's a way possibly to even the playing field so they don't have as much of that say. They have their own domain that they work in, and there's a way you could build it in where they're not sucking up all the resources for their domain. I think it's possible to move it forward. I think that's just the analysis we'll have to go forward with. It's not easy to combine departments together. I actually am trying to do that right now with 3 offices that manage early childhood education, the Human Services Agency, ECE office, the Department of Children, Youth and Families EC office, and First 5, and it's very challenging to make it happen. So you need some research and study to help move it forward. So I would have to move forward with some real analysis that can help look at these thorny issues about who has dominance and how do you assure equity when you start moving those forward. How do you make sure the agenda, which should be about supporting neighborhood artists and local artists first and foremost, gets carried out in that process.
And with that, we're out of time.
One more.
Quickly.
It's not a question, it's just basically, I want to thank you for your support when you were working with Chris Daly for the artist rental assistance program during the .com era where organizations were really being overnight displaced, the issue you talked about. I think better policy to avoid those kind of speculative markets is best, but when we get in them, John has really proven he really helped craft that rental assistance program and make it happen, so thank you.
Thank you. We also funded groups like Bindlestiff as well. So there's ways that we actually can, as a supporter of the neighborhood arts, we could help make their budgets more flexible by also allocating directly to.
Do you support expanding the art on site, the public arts requirement for private developers
Yes.
to citywide?
Yes,
Large development.
that's David Chua's legislation around that.
I think, is he doing it citywide?
Yeah,
Or
he's
is
doing
he
it-
just expanding the use?
He's expanding the use.
Yeah, I wanna expand
You wanna
the
go
geographic
citywide.
area, it's
Oh.
big projects everywhere,
We have more mayors waiting in the hall.
so. Okay.
Thank you so much for
Thank you very
coming out.
much,
Great to
appreciate
see
your
you.
time.